Every great transformation begins with a decision, and that decision is far more important than any strategy, opportunity, or stroke of luck. Many people spend years believing that life will change when the economy improves, when they find the right job, when they have more money, or when someone finally recognizes their potential. They keep waiting for the perfect moment, convinced that success is something that arrives from the outside. But the truth is much simpler and much more powerful. Your life changes when you change. Until you become a different thinker, a different learner, and a different doer, your circumstances are likely to remain the same. The greatest breakthrough doesn't happen when the world changes around you. It happens when something changes within you. Think about it for a moment. Two people can face the same challenge, experience the same setback, and have access to the same opportunities, yet end up with completely different lives. The difference is rarely intelligence or talent. More often, it's the mindset they choose to adopt. One person blames the situation, while the other asks, "What can I learn from this?" One waits for motivation, while the other builds discipline. One hopes tomorrow will be better, while the other decides to make today count. That single decision creates a path that separates ordinary lives from extraordinary ones. If you truly want the next 6 months to be different, you must stop asking, "When will my life improve?" and start asking, "How can I improve myself?" That shift in perspective changes everything. It moves you from being a spectator in your own life to becoming the architect of your future. Successful people don't spend their energy complaining about what they cannot control. They focus relentlessly on what they can control: their attitude, their choices, their effort, and their response to every situation. Personal responsibility is one of the most liberating ideas you will ever embrace. At first, it sounds difficult because it removes excuses. You can no longer blame your past, your boss, your family, the economy, or bad luck for where you are today. But once you accept responsibility, you also gain something incredibly valuable: the power to create change. If your choices help create your current reality, then better choices can create a better future. That realization is not a burden, it is freedom. Imagine planting 2 seeds in the ground. One is watered consistently, protected from weeds, and given sunlight every day. The other is neglected and forgotten. 6 months later, the difference will be obvious. Yet both seeds started with the same potential. Your life works in much the same way. Every decision you make is like planting a seed. Every habit you repeat is watering that seed. Every excuse you entertain is like allowing weeds to grow. Over time, those small daily choices become the harvest you eventually live with. This is why waiting for the right time is one of the biggest traps you can fall into. There will always be another reason to postpone your dreams. You might think you're waiting for more confidence, more experience, or more resources. But confidence doesn't come before action. It grows because of action. Experience doesn't appear overnight. It is earned through consistent effort. Resources often come after you've proven your commitment, not before. The perfect time is an illusion. The only time that truly belongs to you is this moment. The next 6 months will pass whether you act or not. Time has no favorites. It moves forward with perfect consistency. The question isn't whether 6 months will go by. The question is who you will become during those 6 months. Will you still be making the same excuses, repeating the same routines, and wishing for different results? Or will you become someone who thinks differently, acts intentionally, and refuses to settle for mediocrity? That choice begins today, not someday. Transformation doesn't require you to become a completely different person overnight. It begins with small decisions repeated faithfully. Decide to think with optimism instead of doubt. Decide to learn instead of complain. Decide to take one meaningful action instead of waiting for massive inspiration. These may seem like tiny changes, but over weeks and months they reshape your identity. Eventually, success becomes less about what you achieve and more about who you have become in the process. Remember, the world rewards value, discipline, and growth. As you become stronger, wiser, and more dependable, opportunities naturally begin to appear. People notice your consistency. Challenges become easier to overcome because you've developed resilience. Doors that once seemed locked begin to open because you've become the kind of person prepared to walk through them. Everything starts with changing yourself first. And that is exactly where our 6-month journey begins, by becoming the person capable of creating the life you've always imagined. Once you've made the decision to change yourself, the next step is to build a life that supports that decision. A powerful decision without consistent action is nothing more than good intention. This is why the first month of your 6-month transformation is so important. It isn't about making dramatic changes or trying to reinvent yourself overnight. It is about creating daily habits that quietly reshape your future. The life you dream about is not built in a single weekend of motivation. It is built through the small choices you make every single day. Many people underestimate the power of daily habits because the results are invisible at first. You don't exercise once and become fit. You don't read one book and become wise. You don't save money for 1 week and become financially secure. Progress often hides beneath the surface, making it easy to believe that your efforts aren't working. But every positive action is like placing one more brick in the foundation of your future. One brick doesn't look impressive. Neither do 10. But after enough days of laying those bricks, you eventually have a house that can withstand life's storms. This is where most people quit. They expect immediate rewards from actions that are designed to produce long-term results. When they don't see instant success, they abandon the very habits that could have changed their lives. But remember this, success is usually silent before it becomes visible. Just because you can't see progress today doesn't mean progress isn't happening. Every disciplined day is preparing you for opportunities that haven't arrived yet. Start by taking control of your mornings. The way you begin your day often determines the quality of everything that follows. Instead of reaching for distractions the moment you wake up, spend a few minutes preparing your mind. Read something that inspires you. Write down your goals. Think about the kind of person you want to become. Give your mind direction before the world begins pulling your attention in every possible direction. When you win the morning, you give yourself a better chance of winning the day. Then focus on your physical health. Your body is the vehicle that carries your dreams. Even simple daily movement, a walk, stretching, or regular exercise, can improve your energy, your confidence, and your ability to stay focused. You don't need a perfect fitness plan to begin. You simply need consistency. Small improvements in your health often create significant improvements in your productivity and mindset. Another habit that can completely transform your life is reading. Spend even 15 or 20 minutes each day learning something valuable. Over 6 months, those minutes accumulate into hours of education. The knowledge you gain changes the way you think, the decisions you make, and the opportunities you recognize. Every successful person understands that learning doesn't stop after school. Growth becomes a lifelong commitment. Planning your day is equally important. Many people wake up reacting to whatever demands their attention first. They spend the entire day busy but accomplish very little that actually moves them closer to their goals. Instead, begin each day with a simple plan. Identify the few tasks that matter most and commit to completing them before getting distracted by everything else. Productivity isn't about doing more things. It's about doing the right things consistently. As you build these habits, don't make the mistake of chasing perfection. Perfection is one of the biggest enemies of progress. There will be days when you miss a workout, skip a reading session, or fail to follow your schedule exactly. That doesn't mean you failed. It simply means you're human. The goal isn't to be perfect every day. The goal is to return to your habits as quickly as possible. Consistency always beats perfection because consistency keeps you moving forward. Think of your habits as votes for the person you're becoming. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you cast a vote for your future self. Every time you choose learning over entertainment, preparation over procrastination, or action over excuses, you're reinforcing a new identity. Eventually, these actions stop feeling like chores because they become part of who you are. The beauty of habits is that they reduce the need for motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Some mornings you'll feel inspired, and other mornings you won't. But habits don't depend on feelings. They depend on commitment. When your actions become automatic, you continue making progress, even on the days when enthusiasm is nowhere to be found. That's the hidden advantage successful people understand. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems that keep them moving. As this first month comes to an end, you may not see a completely different life in the mirror, but you will have built something even more valuable, a foundation strong enough to support every success that comes next. Because once your daily habits begin to change, your future begins to change with them. After building the foundation of strong daily habits and creating structure in your life, the next powerful phase of transformation is investing in yourself through continuous learning and skill development. This stage is where your growth begins to accelerate because you are no longer just maintaining discipline, you are actively increasing your value. The truth is simple. Your income, opportunities, and success are directly connected to the value you bring to the marketplace and to other people. And value is not something you are born with. It is something you build through learning, practice, and experience. Most people stop learning after formal education ends, believing that school was the final stage of growth. But in reality, school only teaches you how to think and follow instructions. Life, however, rewards those who keep expanding their thinking long after graduation. The most successful individuals are not necessarily the ones who knew the most at the beginning, but the ones who committed to learning the most over time. Every skill you develop becomes a tool that can open new doors, create new income streams, and solve more valuable problems for others. When you dedicate time each day to learning, even if it is just 30 minutes, you begin to shift your identity. You are no longer someone who simply consumes entertainment or reacts to circumstances. You become a builder of knowledge and capability. Reading books, listening to educational content, attending workshops, or learning from mentors all contribute to shaping a stronger, more capable version of yourself. Over time, these small learning sessions compound into a deep understanding that separates you from those who remain stagnant. One of the most powerful aspects of self-investment is that it changes the way you think. As you learn new ideas, you start seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. You begin to understand patterns in business, communication, finance, and personal development that were previously invisible. This expanded awareness allows you to make better decisions, avoid costly mistakes, and recognize chances for growth before others do. Knowledge doesn't just add information to your mind. It transforms your perspective on life itself. At the same time, learning must be paired with application. Knowledge without action remains unused potential. It is not enough to read or listen. You must practice what you learn. If you study communication, start improving the way you speak with others. If you learn about financial discipline, begin applying it to your spending habits. If you gain insights about productivity, implement them in your daily routine. The real transformation happens when learning turns into action and action turns into results. Another important part of self-investment is surrounding yourself with the right influences. The people you learn from and spend time with can either accelerate your growth or slow it down. Seek mentors, follow individuals who inspire you, and connect with people who challenge you to think bigger. Growth becomes much easier when you are in an environment where learning is valued and encouraged. You begin to absorb ideas naturally, without even realizing how much you are improving. As you continue to invest in yourself over these months, you will start noticing subtle but powerful changes. Your confidence will grow because you understand more. Your communication will improve because you have more to express. Your decision-making will become sharper because you have a broader base of knowledge to draw from. These improvements may seem gradual at first, but they compound over time, eventually creating a completely different version of you. The key is consistency. Learning once in a while is not enough to create transformation. Just like physical exercise strengthens the body through repetition, mental growth requires steady, ongoing effort. Even on days when you feel tired or unmotivated, showing up for your learning routine keeps the momentum alive. Each session builds on the last, and over time, the gap between who you were and who you are becoming becomes impossible to ignore. By the end of this phase, you will realize that investing in yourself was never just about gaining knowledge. It was about increasing your worth, expanding your thinking, and preparing yourself for opportunities you once thought were out of reach. And that preparation becomes the foundation for everything that comes next. After you have begun building strong daily habits and investing in your personal growth, the next critical stage of transformation is strengthening your mindset. This is the phase where real internal change begins to take shape, because even with good habits and new knowledge, your results will still be limited if your thinking remains weak, reactive, or negative. Your mindset is the lens through which you interpret every situation in life. It determines whether you see obstacles or opportunities, failure or feedback, pressure or progress. Most people do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because their mindset collapses when challenges appear. At the beginning of any journey, motivation feels strong, and everything seems possible. But as soon as difficulties arise, excuses begin to appear. This is where mindset becomes the deciding factor. Two people can face the same setback, but their responses will define completely different outcomes. One may say, "This is too hard, maybe I'm not meant for this," while the other says, "This is difficult, but I can figure it out." The situation is the same, but the interpretation creates a different reality. A strong mindset begins with taking full control of your thoughts. You cannot always control what happens around you, but you can control how you respond internally. Many people live in a cycle of blaming circumstances, other people, or past experiences for their current situation. But blaming removes power from you. The moment you shift from blaming to taking responsibility, you regain control of your life. Responsibility is not about accepting fault for everything. It is about accepting that your response is where your power lies. Another important part of mindset strength is learning to stay disciplined even when emotions are low. Motivation is temporary. It comes in waves and cannot be relied upon. If you only take action when you feel inspired, your progress will always be inconsistent. Discipline, however, is stable. It is the ability to do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel in the moment. This is where real growth happens, when you show up even on days when you don't feel like it, because your goals are bigger than your emotions. Setbacks are another area where mindset plays a powerful role. In life, failure is not optional. It is inevitable. The difference between those who succeed and those who quit is how they interpret failure. A weak mindset sees failure as a final stop, a sign to give up. A strong mindset sees failure as feedback, as information that helps you adjust your approach. Every mistake contains a lesson, but only if you are willing to look for it. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" a strong mindset asks, "What can this teach me?" Strengthening your mindset also means controlling the stories you tell yourself. Your internal dialogue shapes your external reality. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not good enough, not ready, or not capable, your actions will reflect that belief. But if you begin to replace limiting thoughts with empowering ones, your behavior starts to change. This does not mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is easy. It means choosing thoughts that move you forward instead of holding you back. Another powerful shift is learning to embrace discomfort. Growth does not happen in comfort zones. Every meaningful achievement requires you to step into situations that feel uncertain, challenging, or even uncomfortable at times. Instead of avoiding discomfort, you must learn to see it as a sign of progress. If something feels difficult, it often means you are stretching beyond your current limits. And that stretching is exactly what leads to transformation. As this mindset begins to strengthen over time, you will notice a major shift in how you handle life. Problems that once felt overwhelming will feel manageable. Challenges will feel like opportunities to grow rather than reasons to quit. Your emotional reactions will become more controlled, and your focus will remain steady even under pressure. You will start thinking like someone who is building a future, not someone reacting to the present. And once your mindset becomes strong enough to stay steady through both success and struggle, you are ready for the next stage of transformation where action becomes unstoppable. After developing strong daily habits, investing in yourself, and building a powerful mindset, the next stage of transformation is taking bold and consistent action. This is where everything you have learned, built, and strengthened begins to take real form in the outside world. Action is the bridge between your inner growth and your external results. Without action, even the best knowledge, habits, and mindset remain unused potential. Many people stay stuck not because they lack ideas or dreams, but because they fail to act on them consistently. One of the biggest barriers at this stage is overthinking. People often spend too much time planning, analyzing, and waiting for the perfect moment. They want every detail to be clear before they begin. But in reality, clarity often comes through action, not before it. When you start moving, even imperfectly, you begin to understand what works and what doesn't. Action creates feedback, and feedback creates improvement. Waiting for perfection only delays progress and builds unnecessary fear. Action means being willing to step outside your comfort zone. Growth never happens in a space where everything feels easy and familiar. It happens when you challenge yourself to do things you have never done before. Whether it is speaking to new people, applying for better opportunities, starting a project, or learning by doing, each step outside comfort builds confidence. Confidence is not something you wait to feel. It is something you develop through repeated action. However, action alone is not enough. It must be consistent. Many people start strong but lose momentum after a few days or weeks. They take action when they feel motivated but stop when energy drops. This creates a cycle of starting and stopping without real progress. Consistency breaks this cycle. Even small actions done daily are more powerful than intense effort done occasionally. Progress in life is not built in bursts. It is built through steady repetition over time. Setting weekly goals is a powerful way to maintain this consistency. Instead of thinking only about long-term dreams, break them into smaller, manageable steps that you can complete each week. This makes progress visible and keeps you motivated. When you complete small goals regularly, you build momentum, and that momentum makes bigger goals feel more achievable. Each completed task adds confidence and reinforces your ability to follow through. Another important part of consistent action is tracking your progress. When you measure what you are doing, you become more aware of your growth. It also helps you identify where you are falling behind so you can adjust quickly. Without tracking, it is easy to feel busy but not actually move forward. But when you review your actions regularly, you begin to see the connection between effort and results, which strengthens discipline. At this stage, it is also important to accept that mistakes are part of the process. Taking action means you will sometimes fail, make errors, or choose the wrong direction. But failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. Every mistake teaches you something valuable that success alone cannot teach. Instead of avoiding failure, you must learn to use it as a guide. Each setback becomes a lesson that helps you improve your next step. Over time, consistent action begins to change your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who only plans or dreams and start seeing yourself as someone who executes. This identity shift is powerful because it reinforces even more action. When you believe you are a person who takes action, you naturally begin to act more boldly and more frequently. Eventually, action becomes a habit, just like anything else. You no longer need to push yourself as hard because movement becomes your default state. At that point, progress feels natural instead of forced. Opportunities begin to appear not because the world changed, but because you changed your level of engagement with it. And as consistent action becomes part of your identity, you begin to see real, visible transformation in your life that reflects everything you have built over the previous months. After going through habits, self-investment, mindset building, and consistent action, the final stage of this 6-month transformation plan is review, refinement, and raising your standards. This stage is what turns temporary improvement into long-term success. Many people make progress but fail to sustain it because they never stop to evaluate what is working and what is not. Without reflection, growth becomes random. But with reflection, growth becomes intentional, structured, and continuous. At the end of 6 months, it is important to pause and honestly assess your journey. Look back at where you started and compare it with where you are now. This is not about perfection or judgment. It is about awareness. Most people underestimate how far they have come because they are always focused on what is still missing. But when you take time to review your progress, you begin to see the real changes in your habits, mindset, skills, and actions. Even small improvements, when viewed together, reveal a powerful transformation. This reflection process helps you understand what strategies work best for you. Maybe certain habits had a stronger impact on your productivity. Maybe specific learning methods helped you grow faster. Maybe particular routines made you more disciplined or focused. Identifying these patterns allows you to refine your approach moving forward. Success is not built on doing everything, but on doing the right things consistently and improving them over time. At the same time, this stage requires honesty about what did not work. Not every habit will be effective, and not every strategy will suit your lifestyle. Some actions may have felt forced, inconsistent, or unproductive. Instead of ignoring them, it is important to acknowledge them and make adjustments. Growth is not about rigidly following a plan. It is about adapting intelligently based on experience. The ability to refine your approach separates those who grow slowly from those who grow rapidly. Another key part of this stage is celebrating your progress. Many people rush from one goal to the next without acknowledging what they have achieved. But recognition is important because it reinforces positive behavior. When you acknowledge your progress, you build confidence and motivation for the next phase of growth. It reminds you that your efforts are working, even if the journey felt difficult at times. Celebration does not mean becoming complacent. It means appreciating how far you have come while preparing for what comes next. As you review your journey, you also begin to realize that growth is never truly finished. The 6-month plan is not an endpoint. It is a foundation. Once you complete one cycle of transformation, you naturally become aware of higher possibilities. Your standards begin to rise. What once felt difficult starts to feel normal. What once felt impossible starts to feel achievable. This shift in standards is one of the most powerful outcomes of personal development. Raising your standards means expecting more from yourself in every area of life. It means no longer accepting old habits, limiting beliefs, or low levels of discipline. It means deciding that your future self deserves better than your past self. When your standards rise, your behavior naturally follows. You begin to choose better habits, think more clearly, act more deliberately, and pursue bigger goals. Your identity continues to evolve with your expectations. This stage also prepares you for continuous growth beyond the 6 months. Life does not stop presenting challenges or opportunities, and success is not a one-time achievement. It is an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and improving. By reviewing your progress and raising your standards, you set yourself up for long-term consistency rather than short-term change. You stop thinking in terms of temporary motivation and start thinking in terms of lifelong development. In the end, the purpose of this final stage is to ensure that transformation becomes a permanent part of who you are, not just a phase you went through. When you reflect honestly, refine intelligently, and raise your standards consistently, you create a cycle of continuous improvement that carries forward far beyond these 6 months.